have the brush loaded in black green, start. You're gonna try to avoid getting all over the petals that happen to be overlapping our leaf. But if you get it on there, it isn't a tragedy. So I have my brush up on the tip, just nice and lightly scratch. I'm not bringing the black green completely to the outer edge. This has a little tiny bit that's behind my petal here, so I'll add it there. So I'm just taking black green, coming from the center again, brush up on the chisel, all the way out. Then I just wipe my brush on a toweling. Pick up avocado now on the tip of the brush. Again, it's the same thing. Brush up on the tip. Do you see how I lightly scratch inwards? And just as I scratch inwards, I lift off. I'm not intending it to be completely a straight line. Do you see how it kind of goes in and out as it goes along? That's important. And for some reason, when we're doing this, people tend to go in a straight line and get the side of their leaf solid. Now I'm going to move over to the other side. Same thing. Brush. So you see that the odd time my, Judy, okay. The odd time my brush might go all the way in, like my light green, see how it came all the way into the black green? And another time it's not going to go all the way in. That's the whole thing about this. And I'll just bring a little of the light in past this petal that's overlapping. So you see how pretty the leaf looks already. I wipe the brush again, and now I'm into that green apple, that nice, bright, screaming green. Brush up on the tip. The thing about the green apple, it's a highlight, and we don't want to put it everywhere. So where we did avocado all the way down, this one I'm going to do a few swipes there, a few swipes there. It may look really bright to you right now, but it's going to die down. So afterwards, we will go back and pop it back up if we need to later on. I flatten my brush to the chisel in that green, and just with my brush on the chisel, I'll just kind of drag it up there. Don't press hard. None of it is pressing hard. When I'm coming from my outer edges, the brush is on the chisel, and I just gently drag and scratch off. And those of you who just did something like this in wood, these aren't the same. And on the wood on the wood we had to do dark in the middle and then from the outside. These are a lot easier. And it's totally different because you're I know one of the girls in the class was saying to me, "Hey, we just did these. I didn't." So anyways, you're going to do that on all of those leaves. What I want you to remember is it's easier to pull towards yourself. So if you turn your piece so that your leaves are coming towards you. And the other thing, if you've transferred your pattern on with chalk, I like to lay a piece of plastic or a bag. I've got a bag. I lay that on top of my tracing where my arm might be on top of it. So I'm not rubbing it back off again because it doesn't take much to rub it off. Okay? So that's a little helpful, handy tip. So now we're going to go ahead and do all of those large leaves. Our stems. We're going to take the avocado and I'm going to kind of come in the middle and I'm going to apply avocado to the stem. And I'll do both at the same time. So it's avocado to the middle. Then I'm going to pick up black green. I gave my brush a wipe and I'm just picking it up on the corner of the brush, coming up here to the top, applying that black green, and then I'll just kind of chisel it down into the avocado. Same thing, come over here, apply that black green and chisel it down into the avocado. Then I wipe my brush, pick up that bright green, come in the middle and chisel it down so it comes off the end, but it's blended in the middle. So we've got that brighter. Now, if you were wanting to, I'll just show you, if you wanted to make it that the end of your stem is solid, you know, so it looks like a solid end where it was cut from, you can do that as well. So I'll make these look solid. And I'll keep it a little brighter at the end. So rather than a chiseled off end, it's more solid. It doesn't matter which way you want to go with it. So it's just a highlight in the middle. So I don't base coat the entire stem all the way up, because then when I want to put the black green on the top, it gets choked out by the wet avocado. So this way I can have a plain, start with plain black green and streak it into the wet avocado. So I base that more just in the middle and I work from there. Okay? All right. All right. So again, it's going to be just like what we did with our stems. We're going to work this bud. I'm going to base coat it. I'm going to pick up the black green up near the top of it and blend it down into it. And this one is right behind the flower petal, so I'm going to blend it there. Yours has a flower petal coming right through the middle of it. Okay, because mine's moved to a different place. And then I'm still going to pick up a little of the light green and I'm just going to work it in the middle. So it's dark at the top, dark at the bottom. Yours will be the same thing, but you've got a little, the edge of a flower petal coming right through the middle of it. So when I put that here, that's where I'm talking, right here. You've got that little petal that's coming through it on yours. Then we've got this, I called it a round ball. That's at the end of the stem. And I did it in the avocado. I'm going to pick up black green and I'm going to put the black green along the bottom of it and blend it on. And then I'm going to pick up the brighter green and I'm going to blend that around the top of it. So that little ball has those. We have a couple of leaves that don't interfere with the rest of our flower. So those we're going to do. So there's this one right here. Now mine's on top of the end of that flower. Yours is not. It's this one right here. We have this one right here. So I'm just putting a base on those. We have this one right here. And what I mean by they don't interfere with the others is that this brown stippling we have to do before we do these leaves or petals, because it's going to interfere with that next week. So we will base coat that. So these one, yep. These ones are in the back. So there's 1, 2. This one is yellow, if you're looking at your picture. So we've got 1, 2, and then on the other side of that little bit of yellow, there's a third. So again, I did them in avocado. If you want to switch to a smaller brush, you can. You can switch to your 3/8 or even your 1/4. and I put the black green at the bottom and I just blend it upwards. Wipe my brush off, pick up that nice screaming bright, come at the top, and just chisel it downwards. And these are behind that brown that's the center of the flower, right? So this is behind it on the other side. Again, this is still wet because it stays wet for a while. Black, green, work it in. Same thing for this from the bottom end. And then I pick up that bright green and I apply it there, and I'll just chisel it down. On that tip, chisel it down. It's all faded in on my stem, so I'm going to come in and put a bit more of the bright in there. And I might pop a bit more bright onto my ball.
Sorry, Wendy, did you have two colors on there?
I basted in avocado.
Yeah.
I put black green on the corner of the brush and blended it up from the bottom. And then I wipe my brush and I pick up the bright green and come from the top down.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you see now, like even... Did you see me leaning over there? I have put on a wet coat. I allowed it to dry. Just one primer coat of the golden brown. Now I'm taking my dry domed stippler, 1/4 inch, and I'm tapping in, and we will do this twice. We'll go around here once, do it, the whole thing, and then we'll dry it and repeat it. Okay, so our first go around is right now, I wipe my brush. I've got the golden brown there. I wipe it off. And now I'm taking my bright yellow. This looks a lot like cadmium yellow would in our regular paints. But this is bright yellow in So Soft. I wipe my brush again. And then I'm going to take and I'm just going to tap back and forth between the honey brown, or the golden brown, pardon me, and this bright yellow. I work them back and forth into each other. They're still wet. So they blend into each other. Wipe my brush. I'm going to pick up my cadmium yellow in So Soft, which is much like moon yellow in our regular paint. That looked like a heart, didn't it? Mm-hmm. So then I'm going to take and I'm going to tap that and blend it out into the brighter yellow. So now I'm going to give that a blow dry and repeat the exact thing. So you see that we can see the colors blending, but it needs one more level. It needs to be a little more solid. There's just a bit too much black showing through. It looks brighter in here than it really is. So I'm gonna dry this, eat it. All right. So now I've dried it. And I didn't wet my brush to wash it out or anything. I just scuffed it off in my towel. If we wet these brushes, they stay wet for a month. No, overnight anyway. They don't, you can't just reuse it again. So that's again, my golden brown. I'm repeating the same thing again. A bright yellow. And this coat will really show up nicely for us. So I tap that one back into there. A lot of times you can hear me tapping, but it is not, I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just a loud, gentle tapper. That's all there is to it. So I've worked those two colors together. I'm gonna wipe my brush. and I'm going to pick up my cadmium, the brighter one. Come to the middle. And we want this to be nice and bright. And if you feel like, okay, I've got too much paint in my brush to get anything to work into each other, I just give my brush a little wipe out so that I can just nice and softly, you know, pat those colors together. Let them blend into each other. So see how nice and bright that is now? His belly goes from the light to the dark. It's all shaded. Now I can throw that brush in because the next brush I'm going to be using is going to be my 1/8. So what I want to show you is that I'm not letting it dry. I'm going to pick up my black. And I'm going to take my little 1/8 dome stippler, and I'm picking up black, and I start at right up at his neckline, and I'm going to tap my way along and create that first stripe. Now, that's really easy to curve because you're following his neckline. The next one, I pick it up, and I wherever I put that down, that is going to be how thick the stripes are. And you're wanting to stipple back and forth with this black. And you see how I'm getting a nice curved look to it. And because my paint is still wet underneath, this is actually highlighting my black stripes. So they're not going to be solid black. And you see how they have uneven edges to them, so it looks more like a bumblebee, right? Like it's fuzzy. It's not going to be perfectly flat looking. And I'll come along here, create another stripe, back and forth. And then at the very bottom, just a little bit of an edge of a stripe down there that we're seeing. So that's his stripes. And as they dry, or I'm going to actually just really quickly dry this. It's not too bad for sound here. The reason I did this while it was wet was so it would get a little bit of a highlight, a little light in the middle of these stripes. So now that I've dried it, I can take just black and tap in from the outer edges, not too far. Just come in a little bit, just from the outer edge inwards. And what that's doing is it's basically like shading the outer edges. See how they're darker black. I have a darker black here. So they're darker, and that lighter that was in there while we stippled shows up in the center of our little stripes. And just go along there. So as it dries, these will be darker to the outside edges, and we'll have it looks like a little bit of gray. It's where the yellow is stippled in to the wet paint there. So now we have his little body done. And I have black on my brush. That's a perfect time, because this is the perfect size, my 1/8 dome stippler, to actually base coat his little eyes and his nose. Now we're gonna get paint on these when we're stippling and doing everything. They're there for placement for us right now. We will clean them up later on when we need to. But we need to know where they are, so when we're stippling his face and we're gonna refer to those types of things, now we know where they are. They look like they're the same color. You will notice a difference as they dry. So I've done that with that little dome stippler, and I can toss it in the wash.